Hello, welcome to Staring into the Abyss. I am streaming at you live from my new house in the New England wilderness that has been mysteriously left to me after a relative died. And with me, as always, is Matt Brandenburg.
Hi. I keep putting trash on the side of the road and it keeps disappearing, and I guess I feel pretty good about that. It should be fine.
And Vittleman Mist.
I mean, you guys, at least you don't have a volcano in your backyard, so yeah.
Honestly,
Right?
that's the real horror story is this fucking volcano and people bringing children to the lava. Like,
Yep.
honestly, story idea. But
I
send
did.
this fucking
I already wrote a fucking story about this because I was getting so fucking pissed that seeing these idiots come too close, and I was like, I can't reprimand them like directly, so I guess I gotta kill them off in my stories.
And this isn't your story, but I just read something this week, and I can't remember if it was in Geek Love or something else, but they were talking about this like photographer that like a war photographer and like just saw all these horrible things. And this is fiction. So like, anyway, this photographer saw this stuff and then they went to fly over a volcano. And that was like the moment that guy cracked, was just seeing this volcano like erupting. And so you dealing with this and then everything else just kind of hits harder, that concept of like this massive fire thing that can just eat.
I mean, it's so funny because this is like the third time this has happened. Like this, like the geologists here, they're basically saying like, yeah, we kind of entered an era of volcanic eruptions on that area. And the people who live in that area, they're like, so I guess you gotta suck it up. And yeah, I mean, for us, this is basically a daily occurrence. For me, I'm like, it's cool. I mean, watching it, you can watch it live streaming with like, there are 5 different cameras that are live streaming it right now.
Wow.
And you could just watch it there, and it's really nice. Sometimes it's really comforting to see just all the magma just spewing out. And you're like, nature is fucking terrifying and awesome at the same time. But then again, there are those idiots, those daredevil that claim themselves to be daredevils, that decide to, hey, I need a really good fucking pic for my Instagram because I need it for the cloud.
Right.
And they decide to walk 20 kilometers, by the way, to the volcano. And this is basically like a fissure, so it's not basically a crater. It's a fissure, like a crack, like along the ground, in the fucking earth. And there were people that were just walking on just barely like cooled off lava just to get the best picture, and even bringing their fucking kids there. There was a French family who took their kids there, and the search and rescue people there, who are volunteers, by the way, are trying their fucking best to tell people like, hey, this is dangerous, maybe don't do this.
Yeah.
And the police, and they've just like, the people there have been just so rude to them, claiming that not allowing to go on the fucking crater is like a violation of human rights.
Oh my gosh.
No joke. Some people, some assholes said that.
Wow.
And just like, yeah, they don't even bring masks because despite the fact that like there's so much toxic gas coming from the volcano right now.
Yeah.
And the weather conditions are not good at the moment. That's why they're closed. Like they closed access to it. But it's kind of hard to close it off because it's like in the middle of the wilderness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't go there because the weather conditions are super harsh. Like it's super windy. There's fire burning from the moss like everywhere from the lava, and there's like smoke, there's toxic gas, and they're like, yeah, let's bring our 5-year-olds to this trip.
Yeah, be perfectly normal.
Yep. And it's like, and it's so funny, like one of the reporters, he like captured like a 2 elderly, like American elderly couple from, I think, North Carolina, and he was just asking them like, at any point did you not think this was dangerous? And they're like, I think it is kind of now. I mean, the lava feels kind of loose. And you're like, really? Like, and you are not afraid that it might crack under because, lava is super fucking brittle.
Yeah.
And then, like, at that point, they were like, oh, maybe we should go back to the parking lot.
Oh my god.
I was like, okay, sure, have a good 10-kilometer trip back there. in really unsafe terrain, by the way. Like, I'm just like, I don't understand why the government hasn't just gone off to just fining people for these violations. And I'm talking about fining immediately because the system here is so fucking stupid because you can be.
They should arrest the parents for child endangerment.
Exactly. Yes. I should too, but like people tell them like you are at your own risk here, but then they get super fucking pissy if the search and rescue can't help them when they stumble down and break their ankle or something like that, and you're like, well, this is your fucking. So, what am I gonna do?
Right, your ankle wouldn't have been broken if you didn't go there.
Exactly. It's just it's like we're in an era of self-entitlement at the same time, and I'm like, I fucking hate these people.
Yeah.
I need to write another story just to get my frustrations out.
How close? I'm assuming it's far away, but like, how close is it from you?
From Reykjavik? I can see, like, if I go for a walk, not that far away from my apartment, I can see the smoke.
Wow. Okay.
But it's not close to me. Like, I'm not in any danger. But my sister-in-law, she lives in a place called Hafnarfjörður, which is not that far away from where the volcanic eruption is. But she's still, but she's still safe. Like the lava hopefully won't reach her until, unless the volcano is going to be erupting for like months and months, or maybe a year. Because, the good thing about volcanoes is that it's sometimes really slow.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are closely monitoring the fact that if the lava is going in the right direction, like away from human civilization. But yeah, we're just gonna have to wait and see because it just erupted this Monday.
Jeez.
So we the geologists and the police and the government they're like we still have to assess the fucking thing, but at the same time we have to keep ushering people away because we need to assess this fucking thing. It's like can you give us a fucking break? We need to research this.
Yeah.
Because you never know if there's gonna come a new crack like in the earth a little bit further away or something. So you're like, please, guys, this is dangerous. Can you maybe not? Just view it from the fucking live stream.
Yeah. So I don't know a lot about volcanoes. And you've already kind of described it twice as like a crack. So it's not like the traditional famous mountain kind of thing. It's more like cracks in the ground.
In this case, yes.
Okay.
Because the area that it's in, this is has always been a really active volcanic area. And it's the last two volcanoes, they are in the same area actually.
Okay.
And just a couple of kilometers away or something like that. But they didn't come out from mountains, but there is one mountain that was a volcano at one point in Icelandic history. It's called Keilir, and it's not that far from where this volcano is. So it just doesn't sometimes happen in a traditional way that it bursts out of a mountain. For here, in this area, it's more in the ground.
Gotcha. And that was actually going to be my next question. Is it explode out, or is it kind of just ooze out? And
in this case, because we were that's probably the best reason why it's so good to live here in Iceland, because we have so many good geologists and we have such good knowledge about when this is happening. No, because since this one is in the same area as the other two, then they've kind of figured out like this would not be an explosive eruption.
Okay.
They figured like the ground is relatively like young, and that's why it would be much easier for the magma to break out into the surface. But this is why they were getting a little bit iffy, because they were all there was also like earthquake activity in south of Iceland. Near. I mean, yeah, I assume you guys watched the show Katla that was on Netflix, right?
No.
Oh well. For those of you who did watch Katla on Netflix, the Icelandic one, they are afraid that this is going to be the next one, and if Katla will erupt, because it's not a matter of if, it's now a matter of when. That's going to be explosive as fuck, and that basically means that Europe is fucked.
Jeez.
It's basically going to be the same as when the skies darkened, and that's basically ushered in the French Revolution.
Wow.
Yep.
So crazy.
Jeez.
Yeah. Not a lot of people know that actually the volcano that started in Iceland was one of the reasons why the French decided to revolt, because the darkening sky caused massive famine and the crops not working and stuff. Y'all gotta eat.
Right. Oh man, that's craziness.
This is why we're calling this volcano like a tourist volcano, because it's not as dangerous as Katla would be.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, but still, like, I don't know. I feel nature is beautiful and scary at the same time.
Oh yeah.
And we should respect definitely parts of the earth that are like, hey, if you touch me, you'll fucking die.
Yep.
We respect that. Like, but like, no. I mean, I said it in a funny way, but it's like there's something to be said about the arrogance of going to just cooled off lava
Mm-hmm.
and being like, "What, motherfucker? You're not so tough now. You're so hot now. Not anymore,
Mhm.
motherfucker. Look
Yeah.
at you.
So
You're
cool.
warm. You're warm, motherfucker. You're gonna be cold.
Yep.
You're just asking to like get hurt doing that.
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of people now here in Iceland are basically saying like, yeah, it's not going to be a matter of if a person dies from walking too close or just going.
It's a matter of when.
Yeah, it's a matter of when. And I think probably at that point, especially for us Icelanders, I'm not saying that these people are just tourists that are doing this. We Icelanders we're not any better, because like one of the search and rescue volunteers says that like there are a lot of quote expert end quotes that think they know better than the people who are actually doing this. And I think, yeah, when a person dies from this, I think that will sober us Icelanders a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it will be like a painful reminder, like, oh yeah, remember when yeahh erupted? Yeah, that was not really good. Let's maybe not do this. Don't know about the tourists because it's not going to be as close to home to them, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Well,
right.
fun times.
Indeed.
Such fun times. I mean, we have a volcano here. Poor Europe is suffering from heat stroke. I think a couple of places in the US, you guys are dying too. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, things are happening.
It's been so hot here. Not as hot as Arizona. Arizona, it's like 110, 111 degrees today.
I know.
Whoa.
I'm like, I would just find the next like freezer, just live there.
Yeah. Yes.
And I hate the cold. That's saying a lot.
I love the cold. Except like deep winter. Deep winter sucks a lot. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like October, at least in Massachusetts, is like the perfect weather.
Nice.
I've heard that. Like I've heard that a lot for and I understand that for a lot of people, fall is the best season. But you haven't lived in Iceland, so no.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what I said for Massachusetts.
Yeah.
It's not the same everywhere else.
No, it's like people just look at me funny when I say like I love summer. Summer's the best fucking time, and they're like, "Aren't you dying of heat?" I'm like, "No, man, I live in fucking Iceland. The least that we get like is maybe what 17 degrees warm, like Celsius," and I'm like, "That's amazing."
Wow.
That does sound pretty good.
I mean, I was just saying, like this week we've actually had like 20 degrees Celsius, and I'm like, oh my god, I feel like I'm in fucking abroad. This is amazing. And like we're still hoping, like, yeah, let's keep doing that. Let's keep this good weather going. And then just now this weekend they're like, actually, we're getting a little bit of a cold, and it dropped down to like 8 degrees Celsius, and we're like, what the fuck? Like such a huge change, and then I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I live in fucking Iceland.
Yep.
I forgot.
It's all about I don't even know what I was gonna say. But that being said, Massachusetts can be quite the same way, where it's like weather legit fluctuates. Like this morning, I woke up at 3:34 in the morning to a huge ass thunder and lightning storm.
Shit.
And right now, it's like it looks like it didn't even rain. So, like I said, we live in places where their environments can be hostile to us, but
yeah, it's not as
sometimes-
hostile as the one story we read.
well, I was gonna say sometimes they get inherited to us.
True or
Yeah.
that.
My segue was so good. It was so good.
I'm so sorry, and I broke that.
It's all right. It all worked together.
But what I was gonna say is sometimes you inherit a hostile land, such as in the story Gavin's Field by Steve Rasnic Tem. That's a good fucking segue.
There
It
you go.
is,
Good
and I'm
job.
so sorry.
That was such a good segue. Which I've read a bit of Steve Rasnic Tem. His wife, Melanie Tem, she wrote some really great stuff too. She passed away many years ago, unfortunately. But they wrote stuff together. He wrote stuff solo, she wrote stuff solo. And I've never been let down by a story from either of them. They're always interesting. This one I think had a little bit more kind of telling than others, but there's something about the story that like I want more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want
He
more.
definitely teases a lot. There's a lot
yeah.
happening behind the camera.
Yeah.
But
A lot of build up.
There's a lot
Yeah.
of, and I think the final line's really good too.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll dive into that when we get to it. I'll probably be quick, surprising with media recommendations because I've had a busy week that have kept me occupied. But after talking with Nadia last week and Julia and Kirsten or Krista, sorry, I decided to watch I Am a Ghost.
Nice.
Or Nadia
What'd you think?
Balkan's recommendation, and it is a fantastic ghost movie that is told from the perspective of the ghost and is shot on a shoestring budget. The way they incorporate like the afterlife to like the non-afterlife views is like really cool and interesting. And it just gets into the interesting idea of like what it means to be a ghost and what it means to live and what it means to not live anymore.
Yeah.
And it gets really kind of into that aspect of like holding on to your mortal life when your mortal life is gone, and how can you let go to continue passing on. And it's worth checking out. It was an interesting movie.
It was on Tubi, right?
It is on Tubi,
Okay.
so that means you get a couple commercials. I think
Nothing wrong with that.
nothing wrong with that.
Just like old times.
Yeah.
I've also been watching The Walking Dead: Dead City.
Okay.
which I will say this in regards to The Walking Dead. I am kind of tired of zombies, but but I am a sucker for zombies in cities. Like you take a city and you fill it with zombies, and I'm fucking there. Like I'm there. Like that's how you get me. I never finished the show, The Walking Dead. I stopped watching after like season 3.
Mm.
I actually never.
You got further than I did.
I actually never even watched the season with Negan in it.
No, I haven't either.
I have no connection to Negan in the show. That being said, I have been reading the Walking Dead comics since I was in high school.
Yeah, I've been reading that. Well, I stopped at the people who were posing as zombies.
Oh yeah. Those are the Whisperers, right?
The Whisperers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stopped there.
Oh, that was a good arc.
Yeah, I know. I think I need to pick it up at one point.
That being said, the show severely dips in quality, but I feel the comics maintained a very consistent quality throughout its runtime.
Yeah.
Its runtime went a bit too long, but if you read the final issue, you kind of understand how it went so long. Where like the long story short is Robert Kirkman had an idea for an ending. He realized that the ending he had, which he tells you what the ending is, it's a very downer ending. And he realized like he couldn't put his audience through this ending after they've been reading his comic for like 10 years. He's like, I can't do this ending because everyone's just gonna hate it. So I have to do a different ending that like would work better because you want the reader to feel rewarded for their time investing in the story and the work. But the ending he came up with added another 2 years of plot lines to the comic to get to the ending that he wanted to. And I think it ended well. Robert Kirkman's great. He's a really great comic writer. Brings me to Dead City.
Finally, is this like a prequel?
No, it's actually a sequel. It takes place 13 years after the end of the Walking Dead TV show.
Okay.
And
there's still
teams
zombies.
Up. Oh, there's many zombies.
Okay.
It teams up Maggie and Negan, who we all know that Negan killed Glenn, Maggie's husband, and Maggie hates Negan with a passion. And this show is like, hey, let's make it. Maggie and Negan got to work together now. And
nice.
pretty much the show is Maggie still very much wants to kill Negan, but she can't. She's been living on a farm, part of a community, and they've been hit by raiders. And the person who's in charge kidnaps her son, Herschel. And before he leaves, he does the same whistle Negan used to do. So she knows this person used to work with Negan. She tracks this person down to New York City, Manhattan. That's where he's staying. She finds Negan, who has now taken on a new companion, and he's trying to make amends for the bad shit he did throughout the show. And she tracks Negan down, and she offers him a deal, saying, hey, your friend or your old friend works here. People want you dead. Why don't you come with me to the city and help me get my son back? And that'll get you out of the trouble you're in. It'll get me what I want, and then we go our separate ways after. And it kind of follows them as they're exploring New York City, trying to get Maggie's son back. And it is actually the most I've been invested in the Walking Dead TV show since like 2007. It's good. It's entertaining. It's fun. It's a bit campy. It has some good effects. Overall, it's a really good time. Like I'm genuinely enjoying it.
Well, that's good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of been my thing. Also, actually, I'll save it. Matt, you're next.
Okay. Well, let's see. So it's been, I know I was on last week, but last week we went right into haunted stuff. So it's been a little while. So I've read a couple of things since last I spoke. let's see. The first was Toadstones by Eric Williams. And this came out from Malarkey Press, I think this year. Anyway, it's a collection of weird short stories that all of his weird short stories. And this is like so under the radar, which is unfortunate because he is amazing. And the stories in here are just like I can't even describe of where it all it's just he's got a very unique view that like maybe a little close to like Oren Gray and Michael Sisko, but not that kind of style. It's just really kind of folky, weird horror stories that just deal with a lot of kind of rural areas and people and just a weird things that happen to them. It's been it's been a little bit since I read this too, but like he does a lot of like kind of B horror, which is where that Oren Gray kind of comes in. And it's just there's like one of the stories that really stuck with me is this group of like college age girl roommates. They all have they moved into this house, this really old house that is kind of falling apart. And they call the landlord. Landlord's like, all right, we'll help fix the power because you need heat because it's in the middle of winter storm. This weird guy shows up almost instantly and does this, adds all these weird contraptions, kind of mad scientisty contraptions to their circuit board, their fuse box thing. And then he leaves, and then all of a sudden the lights all cause multiple shadows as opposed to just one shadow. And they hear all these old radio stations and see broadcasts of like the fake moon landing and of presidents talking about people dying on the moon and the president saying we're going to have to like kill some people and all this stuff. And they can't figure out where it's coming from. And then suddenly one of them fades into like, we'll say like another dimension, but can only see when the lights are off. And she can see all these weird shapes in the house. And when they turn the lights on, she disappears. And there's like a giant human-sized moth that falls on somebody, and that person kind of starts growing weird growths and stuff like that. So it's just this, they eventually figure out what the problem is, and it's this huge battle, and there's like a weird slime blob monster thing. And it's just, but I feel like that kind of encapsulates what his style. So if you want some kind of new weird stuff, and I really like want to help kind of support somebody who I don't see a lot of talk about, would be Toadstones by Eric Williams. So that was a great collection. The other one I read, which was a reread for me because I kind of felt like it, which was Geek Love by Katherine Dunn. This came out early 80s, and it is so years ago, I'd read Chuck Palahniuk had like a nonfiction book. I think it was Stranger Than Fiction. And it was just a bunch of his essays and articles and stuff he wrote about weird things. And in his intro, he kind of just talked about his past and how he got to where he was. And he actually brought up Geek Love, saying like this was his favorite book when he was younger and just really loved the style of it. And as I read it the first time and then reading it again, it is so his blueprint. Like if you ever wanted to see somebody's inspiration like so encapsulated, this is like that perfect kind of mirroring. It's not a Fight Club kind of thing. It's not, any of his other work, Lullaby and Haunt It and stuff, but it's just his style. You know how he kind of always pops in with these random facts, and like it just his kind of view on things and the way he just has that kind of off kilter style. That's all in this, and this is like where he got it from. So for listeners who might not have ever read this before or even heard of it before, it's about a carnival freak show. It's about a carnival, roaming carnival, probably in the 60s and 70s. And the owners, the Benuskis, they wanted to make their own freaks. So the husband gave his wife just a bunch of drugs and radiation stuff, just all these things. He was kind of a tinkerer or whatever like that to kind of birth their own freaks, basically. And so one of them is Arturo the Aqua Boy. He was born with flippers instead of hands and feet, and he's like a bald head. and then they made Olympia, who is she's in all of this I'm saying because I know sometimes this can be rough. This is all straight from the book. So she's a dwarf with a hump, and she's bald, and she's got pink eyes. And then there's twins that are like conjoined twins, and then they eventually have like a little boy who's got a special power, like mind powers. And so anyway, it's just this kind of following of this family carnival. And Artie, he starts getting delusions of grandeur basically, and and hates all the norms, which are all of us people, and starts kind of coming up, not quite his own religion, but kind of a type of religion, just this like, you're born normal and that's boring, you should take away the things that make you a normal person to be better and find eternal peace, which means all these random people following the carnival and listening to them start amputating arms, feet, legs, toes, all of that stuff, and kind of follow him around. So you're kind of following that and just this like weirdness. And then it goes to like a present day where Ali and her daughter, which doesn't know her daughter has a tail, and there's a new doctor, sort of, not really doctor, new person in town, it's like Seattle, I think, or Portland. And she is kind of following these same steps, but focusing solely on women, saying like, I'm going to take away the things that are holding you back, and so you can be better. So, she's doing, she's removing breasts or hair or whatever that might hold somebody back, and then kind of pushing them on and supporting them to go to grand endeavors of science and business and all these things. So the problem is Ali doesn't want this person to take away her daughter's tail, because her daughter's tail is a tie to her family and past. So it's this whole thing. It's just so fascinating. Rereading it again, it reads so well, and there's just a lot of interesting concepts and ideas in this book. And so Geek Love, Katherine Dunn. If you haven't read it, highly recommend it. She has such a crazy, awesome, unique style. And then I think the only other short thing, which I don't think we've ever talked about, it's this series on YouTube called Q, the fake documentary. It's from Japan. I don't know if any of you have watched this or heard of this before.
No.
Is this the same? I think I might know what you're talking about. What's it called again?
Q, the fake documentary, or Q fake documentary.
Nope.
I don't think so.
Okay, so what this is it's fairly new, from Japan, and it's all these short, like almost found footage, but the way it's kind of set up in the first one, and I don't even know if you have to watch these in order, but I think the first one kind of sets up this idea of this like news group that are exploring kind of urban legends and or freaky stuff that gets posted online, and then they kind of get involved with it. The first one is very even they make a little joke about it, but it's very similar kind of to The Ring. There's a video. If you watch this video, it will kill you by the time it's done. And so they know the video store that's selling it, and so they go to this video store, and it's very done, not quite news style. Like you can usually kind of see the person, like news anchor or whoever you want to call it, the interviewer, on camera, especially in this first one. Some of the later ones you can't, but it's not done up with fancy news stuff or whatever. And they interview, and they eventually like watched a video, and like we only get clips of the video as the viewer, but then something happens. But these they're neat because they're so subtle in their weirdness. So there's ones where like this guy, during COVID, they're out in some shopping center, and they're talking to people, and they come across this guy who's like, yeah, I keep getting flowers at my house, and I don't know who these flowers are from. And they go to investigate, and they realize the flowers are like what traditional flowers you would give to somebody on put on a grave. and they set up cameras. They never catch who put the flowers on, but then the guy had a set of the latest edition of the flowers, and they take it apart and they find this picture, and there's like people scratched out in it. And so like that was kind of the end of it, though the guy did end up moving out of this apartment. So like that one's kind of a subtly kind of not really scary, just kind of weird and off-putting. And then you have one where it's literally just like a view from a dash cam, and it's these two people and they're backing out of this like long foresty road, which is fun because I'm talking about Gavin's field in a minute. So they're backing out of this like forest road, and you can hear them kind of like freaking out, and then they like hit somebody and they're like, holy crap. And then they start seeing these people in weird masks, and they start coming towards the car as they're backing out, and eventually the people get ripped out. And it's just, that one's really unsettling when you like are watching it just as it's filmed. And so it's really cool. Trevor Henderson, Siren Head fame, he had mentioned it, and then Jonathan Rabb had mentioned it a couple months back. So I finally kind of took the plunge, and it's really neat what they did. Some are creepier than others, like I said. All of them are done really well, and just it's really fun. It's really fun to watch, and just to kind of see, and it's all subtitled, so you're good there and everything like that. But yeah, if you're looking for something a little creepy and short, YouTube Q fake documentary. And
Interesting.
yeah, I think that's it for me.
All right. I have a question for you real quick, Matt.
Yes.
Have you seen the Five Nights at Freddy's movie trailer?
I have too.
What did you guys think about that?
I haven't played the game. Well, like I just watched like Markiplier play the game.
But you played the game. Honestly, we've all watched Markiplier play the game.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, we've played the game. I'm a little bit excited. I think the most reason I'm so excited about this movie is because of Josh Hutcherson. I'm really happy that he's in this movie. I'm like, yay, Josh! Because I honestly thought that he had quit acting after the Hunger Games, and I'm like, dude, you're a good actor. Where are you?
And plus, you got Matthew Lillard in it too.
Yeah, the great Matthew Lillard. I think it looks cool. I think I'm a little, and maybe they are real. Like I can't tell if the animatronic creatures are CGI or if they're practical, because they look a little too clean for my taste.
I know you like them raw and dirty, Matt.
And you like it raw and dirty. I just figure,
a lot of dirt in your mouth.
Yes. Hey, there it is. I just think, like, it's this place has been abandoned since the 80s probably. These things should be falling apart a little bit more and not have whatever sheen they have.
Yeah, I could see that. But Vint LeMay, what about you?
So, I've been away like for 2 weeks right now, so I've actually had some time to do a little bit of watching and reading and stuff. I did, and this is not going to be a recommendation, but maybe for some people, I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I watched Skull Island.
Oh yeah,
it was terrible.
It's awful.
It's awful.
It's so bad. It's so bad. I kept watching it, was like hoping it was gonna be a little bit better because the drawing style is good. I like the drawing style.
This is the King Kong animation on Netflix.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And it barely has Kong in it.
Of course.
Wow.
He only appears in the last 3 episodes, and I'm like, this is about Kong, right? I don't give a shit about the humans. And there's in the beginning, there's 2 father-son duo. The father being Japanese and the son being a half. And I don't understand why they couldn't bring an actual half Japanese actor, because the Japanese, they communicated in Japanese sometimes.
Is it bad?
And the actor, the guy who voices the father, is actually Japanese. You can definitely hear it when he's talking.
What was the son like? Watashi wa.
Yes. It was so fucking bad. My ears were bleeding, and I was like, you could have, like, no offense to you guys, to your American English, but you cannot do Japanese well.
No.
No.
And I was like, I kept thinking, like, why didn't you just bring a European? We would have been at least a little bit better. If you couldn't find anyone who could have pronounced Japanese better than this, it was just awful. And then they just kind of focused on this plot between like a girl who became stranded on Skull Island and befriending this kind of like a dog creature. And it was basically more just about like getting this girl back home. And I was like, I don't give a shit about them. Just give me Kong.
Yeah, right?
And that just happened in the last 3 episodes, and then the end episode just ended with a kind of a cliffhanger, like with like guaranteed like it's gonna be a season 2, and I'm like, no, it's so bad, it's not gonna be a season 2. Oh, it was so
Bad shows get second seasons.
well, I mean, this I don't think so. Like it's an animated show, so I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's with how the studios treat the animation departments. Yeah, definitely.
Yep. So yeah, that was a really bad one. So yeah, continuing on, I actually went with your recommendation, Rich, about when you were talking about the series From.
Oh, you started From?
Mm-hmm. And we downloaded it. We got the.
You acquired it. You acquired.
I acquired season 1, and my husband and I were hooked.
It's good, right?
It's so fucking good. We're on season 2 now.
I wish they would kind of up the violence a little bit more. Like I feel like the camera cuts every time, and I'm just like, I just want to see what they do to the people.
Yes, I agree.
Like, we know it's bad. We hear the screams, and everyone says it's the worst thing ever. But like, and I mean, part of it too is once we see it, it's done.
Yeah,
and I get that, but I feel like they need to deliver on that. They gotta.
Mm-hmm. I just really like the character Sheriff Boyd.
Oh, Boyd's a great character.
He's such a good fucking character. I just like every time he comes on and he's just struggling, but he's trying his fucking best. I'm like, this is how Rick Grimes should have been in The Walking Dead.
You're in season 2 now, right?
I'm on season 2. Yeah, we just finished episode 4, so we're not that far.
Oh yeah, no, but my blood is your blood now.
Yep.
The fucking shit crawling beneath his skin. Oh.
Yep. That's the kind of body horror I can't deal with. If I see like insects crawling within my skin, I'm like, no.
I feel like there's some aspects of the second season that could have been done better, but there's other things where I'm like, oh, this was good.
Yeah. So, and yeah, just the intrigue about this, like what's happening. I'm basically like the guy in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like with the board, like with the conspiracy.
Oh, Pepe Sylvia?
Yeah.
Sauce Milko for Pepe Sylvia.
Yes. I'm basically this person now, like I have so many theories, and I'm like, and I can't tell so many people because nobody around me has watched it, and I'm like, come on, you guys.
Now, you know how I feel when I was watching it. I was trying to tell people to watch it.
I really like this. This is amazing. It's so good.
Honestly, it's like a horror version of Lost.
Yes.
It's like take Lost but make it more horror, and you have From.
Yes. So yeah, I'm really I have my theories. Mine actually, like with the creatures, I have mine goes into this might be Hultefolk. Like they're going into Scandinavian folklore here.
Nice.
So because, I think they're Fae.
Right? I think that's the thing. Hultefolk is basically the Icelandic versions of Fae.
Yeah, I think they're Fae. Yeah. That's kind of what I think it is.
Yeah, because the rocks, I think the rocks are probably iron. They have iron in it, like old
Yeah.
iron, and that's why they can't enter the houses because of it.
Did you get to the episode when they find the girl stuck to the tree?
That's the one that we just finished. Yeah, and that was
Oh, that was
it-
such a hard. I
it
cringed
was-
so.
I like was fighting like I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry. This is awful. I feel awful. I feel awful. No, 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 no. I did
so
burst
hard.
into tears. I did burst into tears at I think it was the second episode of season 1 with the old man with the dementia.
Oh, that was sad.
I was just like I immediately just thought of my grandma and my grandpa and a granddad who all had Alzheimer's. And I'm like, no. It went like I went to the bad place. We're there.
Yeah, no, it was like the show gets us some pretty heavy stuff too. Like,
It really does.
but I won't spoil anything, so don't worry.
No. Yeah, no. It's fine. It's fine. I'm just like loving the intrigue. I'm loving just there's so many more questions that just gets thrown at you, and you're like, but the answers, where are they?
I love the in season 1 you had the flashback to like Boyd's wife, and she just is killing everybody, and she's like, "We need to wake up. I'm waking them up."
Mm-hmm. So yeah, is this if you listeners, if you haven't watched this, it's on MGM Plus.
Yeah, it's on MGM Plus. You can grab you can go on Amazon Prime. You can get it for like $5 a month.
Yeah.
They give you a 14-day free trial, so you can literally get it, binge from season 1 and 2, then cancel.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And not pay a dime.
Yeah, and
I'm curious of checking out. They have another horror show called Chapel White, which is a prequel to Salem's Lot.
I've heard about that one. Yeah, I need to check one
crazy.
out. Yeah.
So I'm debating, and it has Adrian Brody as the lead.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
So I'm debating checking that out.
I saw like a small teaser trailer out of it, and it looked really good. So I'm like, Salem's Lot is one of my favorite Stephen King stories. So yeah, definitely checking it out.
So we had an audio recording issue, but just reiterating that From on MGM Plus, $5 a month, 14-day free trial, binge it, cancel, you watch From for nothing.
Yeah, and just wait eagerly for season 3 because they have said that they're gonna do a season 3.
Yeah, it might be a bit though with the strikes. But
I don't care as long as they pay the people their due work. Definitely,
Honestly,
it's gonna be worth the wait.
The same, especially because the last time. So okay, this is going back, but I remember. Did either of you watch? And then we'll get into Steve Rasnic Tem after this. But did either of you ever watch that show Heroes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know how season 1 of that show was super good,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and then season 2 and after was the fucking worst ever.
Yeah.
It's because of the writer's strike last time, and
Right.
like I really hope the studios don't rush everything back into production post writer's strike, because like I don't want Heroes to happen again.
No.
Yes.
Me neither.
Because that show had so much potential.
It
Yeah.
really did.
It had so much potential, and it lost everything.
Yes, which was very disappointing because it was and they were doing such a cool thing too. I don't think very many things at the time were doing the show and then like a comic, and like they were tying all these different things to kind of give you a full world. And yeah, I don't think they had such high hopes. It had such high hopes.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I'm just gonna give one more book recommendation before we head up into the story.
All right.
I finished Sister Maiden Monster by Lucy A. Snyder.
Oh, that's on my
nice.
TBR. How was it?
I really enjoyed it.
Super fucked up.
It like the body horror in this is like through the roof. But the only my nitpicking or complaint about it was like she didn't really go that much into details into the 2 other main characters. Like this, like it has like 3 characters that are then connected throughout the story. But the two like the middle one, Savannah, and who is a like a dominatrix, and Mariva, who's like a girl who suffers from like growing tumors like all the time. It was like that description was horrifying. Like I feel like they could have done a little bit more introduction with that. But the concept, like having like a cosmic horror, then just kind of mixing it all together with like a pandemic virus, I thought that was really cool. And just like the transformations were really graphic and really cosmic. Like it really reminds you of like the monsters from like Lovecraftian horror.
Ooh.
Nice.
And like it is really in connection with Lovecraftian horror, especially like as the story goes on. Like people just seem to think that it's just another like virus, like similar to the COVID virus. But then as the story progresses, they like these characters kind of realize like, no, the Eldritch gods have other plans. And they all like, and these three are like all kind of connected to that. And there's this one scene that really sticks out, and probably not for a lot of for a lot of people, but that sentence just made me so fucking angry because like she deals with a lot of things like what's happening in the world now, which I really appreciated, and it has like also nice feminist views in it. And but there's this in this in the segment with the first character, Erin. She's the one who contracts the virus. And she kind of discovers that she, like, this virus is, like, categorized into, like, 3 types, and she's type 3. And she is one of the unfortunate ones who has a craving for brains. So she has to eat. So she has to eat brains, basically, to sustain from becoming this kind of raging monster.
How did they figure that out?
Well, they do like a test, like when she first contracts the virus, like she's put onto this facility, and then she's like, and then when she wakes up, they're like, "Are you ready to eat a little bit something, just like to get a little food into your system?" And she's like, "Yeah, I guess." And then they give out like this kind of tests, and they like drink the water first, and then drink this liquid here that kind of looks like tomato juice, and like, but she discovers it's blood, and then like there's a mush that kind of looks like applesauce, and she's like, ugh, looks disgusting, I'll just try eating that first. And then she discovers like, oh shit, this tastes amazing. and that's how they discover like, oh yeah, you're type 3, okie dokie. we're gonna have to monitor you for a little more while.
Amazing.
And when she's like has the permission to go back out into the world, she's not allowed to have any contact with any other, like, because she's like still contagious. And there's this person from Homeland Security that goes and talks to her, like she kind of poses as a counselor, and she tells her to strongly get like an IUD, and I think that's like a hysterectomy.
Yeah,
an IUD is just like it's like birth control.
Yeah, but I've heard
it's not that.
Yeah, but I've heard like she goes into detail like how fucking invasive that is. Yeah, so she tells her to do that, and the character like Erin, she like you go into her mind and she kind of flashbacks back to when her friend had to do it, and like the procedure was like one of the most horrifying things that she had encountered. And she like looked at the Homeland Security counselor, who is a female, by the way, and she's like, but I mean, wouldn't it be better if like guys just got vasectomies instead? I mean, it's better. And the woman just looks at her blankly and is like, why would we do that? And that fucking sentence got me so angry. It got me so fucking angry. That just sparked a feminist fire in me. I was like, because all the things, you assholes.
It's like 10 minutes. You're in and out. You're awake the whole time. Let me tell you.
Exactly. And it's reversible.
It's Villame. It's just a little procedure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, like there are little tidbits in there like that will definitely spark something in you. I don't like it depends on the person, but if you are like if you know of these dealings, these common awful more modern dealings, then this will definitely shake something up within you.
This probably what I did was a joke. I was doing a little Hemingway reference type thing, but like,
Yeah.
because like even if you look into like, because I don't like Ernest Hemingway that much, but what you said reminded me of his story Hills Like White Elephants, which if you've gone to school in America, you've read that story because everybody fucking reads that story because English teachers can't pick anything original.
Yeah.
But the way the man talks to the woman in that story makes me so fucking angry every time I read it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so fucking angry.
Yeah. But yeah, I would recommend this story. Like it has all I think it has everything that people would definitely enjoy seeing. Like it has cosmic horror, it has a lot of graphic body horror, and it's also feminist. It's also really sexy. Like there were scenes that were like, okay, there's some steam in there. Weird in a horror, but I get it. Okay. But yeah, and just yeah, I think the ending could have done a little bit better in my opinion. Like it was it was a little bit of a lackluster, but like I think she could have put a little bit more more of a closure to it. And I detected a little bit of like how should I say, like Christian views into this as well, but not in a but not in a way that it's condescending. It was more like people, if you can read between the lines, you might be able to detect it. Especially in the third act of the story. So that was interesting. So yeah, definitely check out Sister Maiden Monster by Lucy A. Snyder.
Sounds pretty great. It's on my TBR. I have a little pile next to my bed. I'm staring at it right now. But I got a Jonathan Rabb book to read before I get to that one.
There you go.
Yeah.
But today we'll be discussing Gavin's Field by, I guess I should say, horror legend Steve Rasnic Tem. He's been publishing since the 80s.
Yeah.
And he's an author who I've always found interesting. He has a couple of short stories that have super got under my skin. Like super maybe uncomfortable. I was looking for something for us to read this week. I saw The Dark had a Steve Rasnic Tem story. So I'm like, why don't we discuss some folk horror?
Yeah.
Which this is an interesting setting for a folk horror story.
Yeah.
Our main character, Gavin, who has been given a house in Vermont, his father's house. And it's in a very strange town with lots of stone walls everywhere. Just in the weirdest places, man.
You know what? This reminded me a little of Ceremonies.
I kind of got Ceremonies vibes with this too, but not as bad as Ceremonies.
Well, just the concept of going to this somewhat small insular community and dealing with in Ceremonies it was like a farm, but like just this idea of like being out in the middle of nowhere and no contact and strange things afoot.
Yeah.
And everyone's just so vague the way they talk to each other. They like
everyone. We'll say 3 people.
Yeah, no. So like no one can explain shit.
Yeah.
And like I love when our guy goes to the market and the guy at the market's like, yeah, it's just the place we live. He's like, is there a trash day? People just put their trash out. It goes away. Okay.
Yeah, it's like there's no follow up.
Yeah.
Or not even just like in his head, like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I kind of like how we don't get Gavin's perspective on anything.
I
Yeah.
did not like that, to be honest. I wanted more because I'm a huge inquisitive person, and I'm just like I always have questions. I'm like, why? Why? Can you tell
My
me?
question is, why did Gavin stay in such? He even says in the beginning he's not really a town person, and he has this house, and he stays, and I'm like, why are you staying?
Yeah.
Was wondering that too, and you had brought up way at the beginning of this episode about it telling us stuff, and like I think he told us stuff and at the same time just didn't, because like
Yeah.
like what Gavin's deal, I have no like I don't know
No,
what his
yeah,
deal is.
exactly. Like it's interesting when you say it. Like, he said he wants to be there because he's not of a town person. I'm like, okay, but why? And then
Yeah.
also further in the story, he's like thinking of like dying, and then he's like, no, I don't think about dying because there's so many wonderful things here. And I'm like, what? Tell me what?
Yeah.
Give me
who
fucking
comes,
examples.
Yeah.
everybody who comes to this town comes here to die.
Yeah, and then I was like, aren't you contradicting yourself here? Because I'm not getting any examples that you're like enjoying fucking life.
Yeah, exactly. There clearly there wherever he was coming from. Maybe we're told, but we have no idea where he's coming from. And but what we do know is there's nothing, whatever, that there's probably nothing there for him, which is why
It's
he's
not.
being
He
here.
even comes to this town in a broken fucking ass
Yeah.
car.
A beat up, broken. Like his life is not. I mean, we have
Like if
enough
he's
to know
not
that.
going there to die, then what the fuck is he doing there? Like, come on, man. I mean, I'm not gonna discuss the ending right away, but yeah, but there are like not so subtle hints about what you're gonna do, my man.
Yeah. I know.
I mean,
like
honestly, I have a funny thing to say with the ending of this story once we get there. But
Yeah.
What I liked, so listeners, like we said, this is on the dark, so you can read this and everything like that. And there's a lot of beautiful descriptions, beautiful
It's very
descriptions of
vivid.
It's very well written. Like there are so many good descriptions that this immediately pops into your head.
Yeah,
Like, just like this is like the mist transitioned into a needle-like rain. He struggled with the lock at first, and pushed a heavy door in on the cramped wood-paneled hall, dark with dust and grime. His heart sank at the first glimpse of filth, but he had to get his new belongings inside.
Yeah. So like all of that is great, but like it feels like he put this character Gavin in because he really just needed something to describe this small town.
Yeah, like
village thing.
Gavin has no agency as a character.
Yeah.
Oh my god, you guys, you know what just this reminded me of?
What?
He's basically Indiana Jones in the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yep, because the story probably wouldn't have continued even without him.
Yeah, because like no, everything that happens, and even at the end that happens, and man, this is what I said about the menu, and people always give me crap about it, but everything that happens at the end of this story was gonna happen regardless if Gavin was there or not.
Yes, exactly.
He was just there to show us this creepy house and all these rocks and this weird small village thing, and that was it. And
yeah, Gavin exists just to show us this, I guess you could say, ceremony.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, I loved it all. All this stuff like is fine, and I think we've talked about this before, because I think Adam Neville has a collection that is just descriptions of settings or something.
Yeah.
I've read it.
It's a great collection, honestly.
Yeah. So
I
like
think every writer needs to read that collection just to see how to tell a story without characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel as a writer that collection is super important to read.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's what this feels a bit like, because we're getting some great concepts and ideas again for listeners. Like this village is just, everything is falling apart. All these Gavin is driving into town in this beat up car, and he like is just seeing these houses being overtaken by trees. And like at one point, which I thought was like a really funny like short little thing, is like he can see into one house and he's like, oh, there's two mud-clad people embracing, and like all of that's great. And there's this house is just full of dust that no matter how much cleaning he does, it's always there. And like these stone, everything is awesome. It's just like
It has
could have just given us that.
Yeah, it's just really great build up of these kind of this with weird, bizarre, secular thing that is happening there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like and it's not to say like we're not really saying that that Gavin not having any agency in his own story is a bad thing. Like
no, it's not a bad thing.
It's just glaringly obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also one of those things too where it's like this is a story that's not about its characters.
Yes.
No.
I think Gavin having no agency would be a bad thing if this was a character-driven story.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a character-driven story. This is a story that's all about the plot.
Yeah.
And it's all about
the setting more like
it's all about the ending. It's all about visiting this area and what this area is like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of plot going on there. There's barely a plot, like just a little bit. So I would say that this story is more just about the setting.
Yeah, because like you're not, because which we said his dad passed away, gave him this house, and he's there to clean it up, I guess, to live there. And so like that's the story is sort of just following that, but most of it's just about like what's happening in town. Like he's not facing any major challenges, even like when he first gets there and meets that couple and that like shop thing.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge of like, well, gee, where am I gonna buy groceries, or how am I gonna take care of garbage and stuff like that? Like that's sort of handed to him.
Exactly.
And there's no challenge in there either. Like one guy doesn't call him back, and that's about it.
Yeah. Like it was interesting that, when he went back to town and saw that no one was there, then he suddenly like, oh, I haven't been here in weeks. Like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, why would you go there? And then we kind of get the the explanation that he's supposed to be like a modern day hermit.
Yeah.
But I mean, in a secluded place like this, I think hermits would maybe go into town from time to time.
Yes. Yeah. Especially just for food, because we don't really get a sense that he's like a hunter or anything like that. So he's just there. We do get some cool. Oh, go on.
Yeah, and it's also just funny, like when he says, like, everything was like sorted out for me regarding like groceries and with the with the trash, and he was like, and I kept thinking, and you don't want to know where you get that?
Yeah, I kept thinking that too. Like, who's delivering this stuff?
Yeah, who's delivering? You don't even talk to them. You don't mention their name. Like, it's this guy from the other place, like not from this town, but from like a little bit further out. Like the only person that he has like an actual conversation with is the lawyer.
Yeah.
And the elderly couple, but we don't even get their names. We get the lawyers' names, Martinson. I'm like, that's a weird fucking last name for a lawyer, but okay.
And the weird watchdog old man too, which was
Whitby.
Like a D name. Yeah, I was like
Whitby. I'm Whitby.
I will say, I one thing I do like about the descriptions is they're just, I don't know, this one sentence kind of sticks out to me because I'm looking through their story now, where it's like nighttime at the town, and you hearing it goes, that night, Blackburn's his field, was full of fire and distorted voices, engaged in asynchronous singing. Periodically, he would see shadows entering and leaving the woods from its sides, and some through the gate, but the firelight created so much distortion he couldn't be sure. The dark itself appeared to have broken down into a variety of either celebrating or suffering shapes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like,
which is just
so
awesome.
it's just such a really great description, but I just love how it's like the daytime, nothing's in this town. The nighttime, there's just
There's so much
madness
life,
happening
Yeah.
outside this guy's house.
like so much life
Yeah.
all around.
And
and
death.
and yeah, life and death is like both put together, and you also see like the opposite with when he hears these noises like of both pains and then of pleasure, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love so like yes, these descriptions and everything are just really awesome. Or even like some of the explanations for stuff we get. So like he's throughout driving to this town, he saw like a bunch of walls, stone walls, and a description of these walls being farmers coming to this town and clearing the rocks as far as they could and just stacking them, but then the rocks kept coming up and everything like that. And it's such a fun way to describe why these rocks are there. It has nothing to do with boundaries or anything. It's literally just like, well, as far as they could carry them and stuff like that. Or like he even at one point gets a rock just in the middle of his yard. That's the other thing that I kind of like that he does here is just his, even like his paragraphs each kind of jump into each other in such a weird way. So like this stone, he like looks out at one point in his yard and you can see the gate, this famous, like this, I can't remember his dad's gate's name or whatever like that. And then like the next day he looks out and there's this giant stone there.
Mhm.
And like for a second I was reading, I'm like, well, wait, did I miss something? And then I was like, oh no, that just, it's appearing to us as fast as it's appearing to Gavin. So I like, and he did that a couple other times where like these paragraphs would just instantly go into something that you feel like you're missing, but then you realize like, well, that's just his way of being like this sudden thing happened. And so I thought that
Mhm.
was like a cool way. But the gate, so like, okay, now we can kind of get into some more deeper stuff because the questions like, are we, I guess the way he sets it up at first is it's like, I almost thought like he was dead and he was just here. And like part of that to deal with like this gate, at one point he touches the metal and then like just what passes out for a while. Do you
Yeah.
remember this part? Yeah.
Mhm.
I remember
Mhm.
this part.
Yeah, I was like, and just like that comment about everyone comes here is dead and like everything is just sort of shut down. And like there's, you talked about the animals. I thought that was interesting too, with like the cats
Mhm.
carrying like squirrel heads and like digging at the ground and just things moving. But then like obviously with the way it ends, I'm guessing he's not dead until the end.
I
But
I mean, maybe he's like entering Fey territory.
yeah, that, yes, which is like the big question too, is like what is happening in those woods?
Yeah.
I mean,
So like it kind of feels like at first I thought it was gonna be a Fae type thing
mhm.
with the walls and everything,
Yeah.
but it ends up being more, I guess, insect,
Yeah.
which could maybe still possibly be Fae depending on how you interpret like the legends and stuff.
Yeah. 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 Could be.
So you don't think they were people in masks? You think those were actually insect people?
I do think they were insect people, yes. I don't think it was people in masks.
Okay.
Yeah,
'Cause that's
because
what
because he didn't really did he really describe like a lot of the human aspects of the people? I think he
maybe
just
not.
I think he just did like they were naked and they were like had something on on their faces and
And they
like
had their groins mutilated.
yeah.
Did they? I must have
One of
missed
them did.
that. Oh god.
So yeah, like I have this feeling that this is more like a faith type thing.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
they're shoving like mud and shit in people's mouths.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was through like again, listeners, throughout like we see these little like, I don't know, little tchotchke like statue things, but they all have mud in their mouths.
Yeah.
And then yeah, when we get to the end, we realize that it's not just these statue toy or whatever they are things that have mud in their mouths.
It kind of makes me think. Like we mentioned when he goes when he checks into one of those, like I think it was one of the houses, he saw like two of them embracing
Yeah.
these statues. So I'm thinking these were probably victims that were turned.
Ah, interesting. I like that. Because like we do, and you brought up Rich when you were kind of reading through it, like he sees these shapes every once in a while, and like he thinks they're animals at point, but they're standing too upright. And then
Mhm.
when he actually goes into the woods, he's like he sees like these animals just covered in insects and everything. It's so maybe that's you're right.
Well, right here it says he saw several odd-looking beetles, swollen and lopsided, and of a slick green. Their legs were unusually long, more like spiders' legs than any beetles he'd ever seen. They scurried around exposed tree roots as twisty as snakes. A long gray worm crawled out from under the roots and wrapped itself around a beetle like a tiny python. The beetle struggled to escape by climbing the tree, with the worm stretched out and still attached. The bark suddenly peeled off from the tree and flew away. Gavin fell onto his knees. A large piece of bark was still moving. It was the size of a large bird. It started to fly, then fell onto Gavin's forearm. He let out a cry and jumped to his feet. Trying to shake it off, it shed so many scales and appeared to completely disintegrate. So, like, there's weird shit going on in this farce that, like,
Mhm.
is 100% supernatural, which is why I'm
Yeah.
kind of buying the fact that I think people are trying to work with these entities, whatever it is,
But
and
the ending. Well, continue, Rich.
and sometimes it leads to their deaths. Other
Yeah.
times they assimilate.
hmm the thing about the ending is what actually pushes me more forward towards the faith thing. Can we go? Can we go to the ending?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think we can.
shit.
Yeah. So basically, Gavin he decides to go further into the forest to see what is happening, and he witnesses what he thinks is kind of like a ritual or ceremony. The people he found from the town, they're all basically in a circle in like a mudded field, and they're bound and naked, and these insect people are around them,
Yep.
and all of them have like this earth coming like out of their mouths, like as if almost it's either been shoved into them, or basically that earth is coming just through their bodily orifices. and and then he notices one of the people that is bound is his lawyer Martinson.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's like the lawyer actually like managed to get some of the dirt out of the mouth, and he's the way he says is interesting to me. He says, let me see.
The locals did everything, but nothing would thrive here, and so they accepted it. They embraced it.
Exactly. This is why this feels fate to me, because and it also kind of leans towards the Icelandic Huldufolk era here, like the folklore that we have here. Because what we have here in Iceland is, a lot of people will say that they don't believe in elves and Huldufolk and stuff, but because Huldufolk is so connected to nature, that we kind of like, instead of not really believing it, we're just respecting it. That's kind of my take on it, at least.
Mhm.
And there were so many cases, especially when the Industrial Revolution was happening here, when they were building roads and stuff. There were many instances where the machinery just broke down when they were going to like take down what we call an Alban church, which is basically just a huge rock.
Huh.
Because that it is said that these are basically the homes of the Huldufolk, and a lot of people warned the construction workers that they shouldn't do anything near them because they would get cursed if that happened. And they couldn't explain what was happening when all the machines broke down. So instead of forcing the issue, they decided to build around it. And that kind of feels to me in this case here, like they said, they accepted it, they embraced it. There's like, there is some fake activity doing here. There's nothing we can do to stop it. We should just embrace it. And in this case, this is a good example of that.
And also, like, the descriptions at the end are so fucked up. This is so fucked up. Like, they're pretty horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like the lawyer naked, just mud leaking out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, I love the last paragraph where it's like Gavin decided not to struggle when the man-sized insect began feeding the muck into his open mouth. It really wasn't that terrible if he let himself relax and accept what he was being offered. The taste, rich and dark and nourished with death, was not at all unfamiliar.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, oh, he ate shit.
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I just think
sorry, Matt. Just go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, like, when we were discussing like what he was doing here, like, dude, you're not even struggling. You're not even resisting death at this point. So yeah, this is basically what you were here to do. You just decided to go die here.
Yeah. Everyone dies here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's interesting to kind of think about it that way, because like we do see the two owners of the one business that he, like, later on it's completely closed, but the two owners at one point mentioned like, oh, we've been here for, I don't know, 11 years or whatever like that, but they still treat us like outsiders. We're not local enough because we haven't been here forever. And then you see them here at this little thing along with the lawyer. So like and this is just the logic part trying to wrap around, which I know is silly, but like they must not be able to do this ceremony very often because like they're killing all the non-locals and this town seems very out of the way. So like I keep trying to figure out like why like what their plan is, like once they, and I guess the other question is why didn't they like kidnap Gavin like did all the people kind of get called into the woods, or was it just him that kind of got called into the woods? And again, like what is their end game? Like once Gavin is dead and they killed the watchdog guy, like there's nobody left in town. So I couldn't tell what the goal was.
For me, I think the goal just was that then they will be left in peace.
So then this isn't really like a sacrifice. This is just like I need to clear out town.
Yeah, because they like with the story they started as farmers, so and they were kind of like trying to change the earth in a way that the nature didn't approve of. So they're trying to just. They're doing a nature's cleansing, basically.
Okay. I like that
theory.
It's
kind of like they're being punished for trying to change the natural land around them.
Mm-hmm.
The land's coming back to change them instead.
And so they're just like, "Hey, random lawyer that only stopped in town once, we're killing you."
Yeah, I mean, he stepped into he stepped onto the land.
He stayed on, and he stayed there.
What do they do with the garbage? Well, I guess the garbage they just eat. At one point, we see that the garbage bags keep going, but like, like whoever's delivering the groceries, I'm surprised they let that guy live for very long.
No, they probably didn't. I mean, you can probably see through Gavin's internal thoughts. Like he didn't care that much about like, I haven't got my groceries in a while. Like, so we can only just assume they got him too.
All right, I'll accept it. I mean, I love the ending. I thought that was great. I love this thing happening and this like weirdness, but like again, not knowing everything that's happening, which we're not supposed to. We can fill in the gaps, but it's still just kind of funny to kind of look at some of it and be like, what is happening?
I do love
Mhm.
this description here, though, where it's like, from his final vantage point on the ground, Gavin could see most of his still living companions and a few whose suffering had ended. The naked lawyer lay on his side, eyes distended and mouth leaking mud. Across the circle, the elderly shopkeeper and his wife kneeled, eyes closed and throats struggling to exorcise the dirt that filled them. A pitiful corpse that might have been Whitby lay closer to the center of the circle, where the black earth churned and rose and fell. Like
Yeah.
the visual descriptions he gives are fantastic.
Mhm.
Oh, totally. No, all of it was very vivid, which was very cool.
It
And
just one thing of criticism is the story like goes forward, not so much like on plot, but more just on vibes.
Yeah.
Where it's like we're not given enough foreshadowing to get like suspense building up. It's just more, this place is weird, and we just
Yeah.
go off of a sense of curiosity. And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. I think he handles it well,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a type of story structure that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Definitely, and I think I think it did it intentionally because this story, however you're reading it, it feels timeless because aside from the car, you don't know at which time period this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that too, because there's really not like, there's mentions of phone calls, but like you could go a landline to a cell phone, no problem.
Yeah.
And so that, I thought that was really cool too. And like the setup of all the buildings already being decayed, you have no idea if the decay happened, overnight, i.e., like that stone thing that appeared, or and the dust that keeps appearing in his house, or like it's been
Mhm.
open for years and stuff like that. So yeah, that was really cool. Yeah.
Oh,
So
definitely. And it's also available to read on the Dark, their website. It's free to read online. And Steve Rasnic Tem has been writing for a long time. If you haven't read his stuff, I definitely recommend checking it out. Like,
yeah, after this, I do want to try more.
Mhm.
yeah, I have a couple of his collections actually. He most recently I have the one that Centipede Press put out for him called The Night Doctor and Other Tales.
Nice.
But he is really is one of like a long stay in the horror writing field. I was trying to find out when this story was published because it just says it was published in the Mammoth Book of Folk Horror, which was put together by Stephen Jones, the British Stephen Jones, who is not in the best of favors right now. But that's a different story for a different day.
Yes.
But I'm happy you guys enjoyed the story.
Yeah.
This is a
Yeah.
fun discussion. We got Abyss off for a couple weeks, but it's fun to get it back.
Yes.
And I know Twitter's on fire right now, but Matt, where can listeners get in touch with you?
I guess still there at Brandenburg DM.
All right, and Vitlame, what about you?
I'm still on like a social media hiatus, but if people want to get in touch with me, like they can do that through DM on Twitter, where my handle is VitlameS.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Rudy53088. And also, if you look up my name on Blue Sky, you can find me there. And this is Richard Gerlach saying, keep staring.